Text Thread and the Marital Bed. It's the latest episode of The Connors, Season 5, Episode 19. Let's talk about it. Hey guys, Dan here. This is Dan Reviews It. Welcome to my Connors review for the latest episode, Season 5, Episode 19 is what we're talking about. And there's only a few more left in the season. Next week, I believe there is not a new episode, but the week after that, there should be. So there's 22 episodes slated total for the season. So after this one, there's only 3 more left, and then a few months off for summer break. No word yet, by the way, if the Connors is coming back for Season 6. I don't believe ABC has made decisions on any of their current comedies. I know The Goldbergs is wrapping up after this season, but in terms of Home Economics and what else is on that night? Not Dead Yet. The Wonder Years, I believe, is returning for the summer, but no word, if it's going to go past that. And I guess that's it. That's all that's really on ABC's comedy slate anymore. But anyway, the ratings are still very good for this show. So I think it's probably a foregone conclusion that we're going to continue with Season 6 of it. But no word yet. I'll let you know whenever that does come down from the suits at ABC. But in the meantime, we got to talk about this current episode, Text Thread and the Marital Bed. But before we launch into the specifics about this episode, I want to welcome you into Dan Reviews It. Thanks for finding my video. We talk about the Connors every single week that there is a new episode here on my channel, and we go back to Roseanne Season 10, and even before that I did season reviews for the original series, back from the 90s, and I put those up as well. So tons of Connors-related stuff to check out on the channel. But consider subscribing down below, because I have not only Connors stuff, but tons of movie and TV reviews. Try to put something new up just about every day. So, all right, let's talk about this episode. First of all, we had a Mary appearance. We don't see Mary a whole lot, only a few episodes so far this season, but she was in it, and she actually had a pretty good joke at one point. But everybody really but Mark, in terms of the major players, was here in this episode. We had a Beverly Rose appearance as well, which we hadn't seen her, I think, in a few weeks. And Louise was here as well. I hope if they do continue with the Season 6, that Katie Seagal becomes a regular now that she's sort of officially, that character is sort of officially off the road, with her band. So I don't know. I would love to see that. But anyway, everybody else was in this episode, so we had a nice run with the cast. Unfortunately, no Mark, but he was mentioned actually as part of the text thread conversation. So let's start, I guess, with that plot point, the text thread. So this was sort of the Easter episode. That's never been like a major holiday in the Connor household, but since it is the week before Easter, makes sense that we would go with that sort of theme. And the plot really does sort of revolve around the Easter festivities, because everyone in the family is really excited to come together. But Louise mistakenly sends a text to the wrong person about how she's sick of Becky's pictures all the time of Beverly Rose, and we get it. You're, proud of your daughter, but enough. I'm sick of deleting all these pictures, whatever. And it's, established earlier in the episode that there is a big family text thread that is, maybe driving people a little bit up the wall with all the notifications, but specifically Louise. And so then she sends that text thinking it's to, she claims, to a former bandmate, but it ends up going to the family regardless, and Becky is pissed. So she says, look, I don't want you at Easter. I'm going to bring Beverly Rose over. I would love it if you weren't there, went to the movies or something. And I think she even said that through Dan. I don't think it was directly to her. So, look, Dan, of course, has to be the voice of reason as usual. And actually, come to think of it, I don't think we had a Roseanne mention in this episode. Usually we do at some point have a Roseanne mention, or Dan will say, your mother, da-da-da-da-da. But I don't think we did. All right, well, which is fine. I like it when they do it naturally, and it usually is natural, but I don't think we had one tonight. But in any event, he basically kind of brings everybody together and says, look, Becky, Louise is not the only person who, maybe has things to say that they don't want to say directly to the person. Because Becky's whole thing is, oh, in this family, we say what we mean to each other's faces, whether it's mean or whatever. We like to tell the truth. And Dan basically calls her out on that lie and brings up a couple texts from other people that he has intercepted. And then Darlene even gets one on Becky. She was complaining about Louise and Jackie, at the lunchbox, and I can't believe I have to work with these crazy women, and whatever. So everything gets out in the open. This is a pretty classic sitcom trope that always works pretty much, especially if it's with established characters. Like, one of the most memorable ones for me is Friends, when they had, I forget what the basis for the argument even was. You can tell me in the comments if you're a Friends fan as well. But they started just telling all of these truths, about each other. And it's one that when you know the characters, it turns out to be really funny. I think Raymond maybe has done it as well. So I liked this part of the episode. It was funny, kind of hearing everybody's kind of inner monologues about their family members and stuff. So that was funny. But anyway, it got everything out in the open, and Becky and Louise, by the end of the episode had made up. And I think, a very nice moment with the two of them, because we sort of learned, like, Becky's thought was, oh, are you jealous of my child because you never had one of your own and everything, which I thought was a little presumptuous of Becky, but okay. But no, Louise's response basically was, look, you are a really good mother. You want everyone to know how much you love Beverly Rose, and I did not have that kind of relationship with my mother, which, look, in that generation, certainly I think is probably a running theme. Obviously, Jackie never got along with her mother. We referenced that again in this episode. But, my own mother did not really get along very well with my grandmother. So maybe it's just sort of a generational thing of that time that, parents didn't dote on their kids quite as much. And of course, look, we didn't have cameras in our pockets, before the mid 2000s, right? So, obviously taking a million pictures of them, was not really feasible, so I guess it there's something about that. I guess maybe that Louise was feeling like, well, even if my mother did have this technology, I don't think she would have, done the same types of things that you're doing. They didn't really touch on that aspect of it, but just me thinking, like, I know there's not a ton of pictures of me as a kid, and I would like to think that if we all had camera phones at the time, maybe that would be a little bit different. I am the middle child, though, so you never know how that's going to shake out. But at least there would be tons of pictures of my older brother, and we don't really have a ton of those either, because it was sort of like the Polaroid thing, or maybe I think we did have a camera or two, but other than that, you buy the Instamatic or whatever back in the day. So anyway, I kind of like that plot line. I thought it mined a few laughs, but also I really like the scene at the end with Louise and Becky. So, all right, let's move on now to the marital bed issue. Darlene, really, this was a very interesting episode for the Darlene character. So the basic gist is, at the beginning of the episode, Louise offers up an anniversary cake for the two weddings. Jackie and Neville got married at the same time as Darlene and Ben. We saw that last year. And celebrating that and talking about, sort of their sex lives a little bit, and how maybe things have slowed down after a year. And Jackie does not find that to be the case. Her and Neville apparently have a raging sex life. And Louise and Dan do as well, which of course Darlene does not want to hear about, because that's her father. But she reveals that her and Ben have only made love once since they moved into the new house, which, I mean, there's been so many episodes lately with the new house. It's got to be months that they've lived there. So for them to only have done it once, obviously, is maybe a little bit of a slow period for sure. So Darlene tries to get some ideas from Jackie on, how to please her man, basically. This is the part of the episode that I thought was a little bit like, I always sort of, I don't love when the Connors, or back in the day, the old Roseanne show, used to go into like really broad, like I Love Lucy style comedy, and I feel like that's kind of what this portion of the episode was. Where Jackie was trying to teach Darlene to physically turn her man on, and this and that, and there was a funny gag in there where she got her instruction manuals confused, and it was actually one of Neville's books about how to mate peacocks or something like that. So okay, that was kind of funny, and listen, the scene did give me a couple of laughs, but it always feels a little out of place when the Connors does something that's just very, very broad in its tone, and maybe like a little physical comedy and that sort of thing. But she ends up talking to Ben about everything and saying, okay, let's, pin down a day. If you're not in the mood now, let's figure it out. So, okay, tomorrow night sounds great. He comes up with an excuse, and she calls him out on it when he gets home. And basically we learn, his truth. We're getting a lot of truth in this episode, from Louise and now from Ben. And Ben's truth really was that he does not feel attractive. He does not feel sexy because he feels like, a little bit of a failure. His magazine went bust, and he's really struggling to make ends meet with the hardware store and everything. And he just feels, like kind of less of a man and less sexy and everything. And that's something that I think we've seen in many, many sitcoms. But it is something that I think always kind of works because it rings true. There are times in relationships, and God knows I've never been, married or in a super long-term relationship, but, I certainly have seen it with my friends and people in my own family and whatnot. And, the dry spell is certainly real. And so I like the way they handled that portion of the discussion. The parts with Jackie, yeah, they were a little bit funny, but like I said, a little too broad for my tastes with this show. But in any event, I think the resolution was good, and another, both stories ended in these nice conversation scenes where, we get a little insight into these characters. And I will say, I've been kind of harping, I think, this season, at least the last maybe half of the season, on Darlene as a character and her choices and her really kind of treading on this unlikable territory. But I think this episode kind of turned it around. And it's been sort of going in this direction anyway, the last couple episodes maybe. But I felt, sympathy for her. And also, she really, again, this was, a little bit more a physical comedy than I enjoy in the Connors. But, she had this like get up on that was really, trying to create a sexy environment for Ben and everything. And it kind of went bust. But it showed that Darlene is really willing to go the extra mile for this relationship and for her husband, and to try and make things work and to try and compromise about things. And I thought that was a nice change for her character, because she's been just kind of nasty lately, and I think picking at things that maybe could be better left alone. And I've said that a lot lately with this season. So I like that they showed that side of her, that she was really kind of willing to, compromise a bit, or at least, change some things about her own behavior to, make ends meet the person halfway, whatever. So, all right. So overall, well, I guess we'll do our grade and the MVP for the episode. I think I might give MVP for this episode to Sarah Gilbert as Darlene, just because of that great change in the Darlene character that I really enjoyed seeing. So why not? I'll give it to Sarah Gilbert this time around. As far as a grade, I think this was a decent episode. I've already sort of mentioned my gripes, so I think we don't need to rehash them. But I will leave this episode. The name of it again is Text Thread and the Marital Bed. I will leave it with a B plus. So that will do it for this one. I'll be back in, I guess, 2 weeks with another new Connors review. Like I said, I don't think there's a new episode on next week. But thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Dan Reviews It. Bye.